Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grave Matters. I am CreepyClownGirl, one of your hosts. The other host, Filia Noctis, could not be here tonight. She is not feeling well, and unfortunately, her and her family lost their beloved pet, Gatto, this morning. So, if everyone can please reach out and send your love and prayers to her and her family. And joining me today is Possessed Radio. Hello, Stephen.
Hey there, everyone. How's it going? Hope everyone's having a good day. And we are also joined by our special guest for tonight. It is author William Shoney. Thanks for coming.
Guys.
Hello, William. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks.
So, Stephen, who do we have in chat with us?
Let's see. We've got Azazel Codex. How's it going, man?
Hey, Antonio.
Hope you're having a good day, my friend. We have, of course, the three of us, being you, William, and I. And then we also have Raven so far. And it looks like we have Kayla in here as well. Awkward Alien Kayla.
Hi, everyone. More people should be coming along shortly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Lord knows I tweeted it out. Oh.
I put something out a little bit ago, too.
Right. So, go ahead, William.
No, you go ahead first.
Welcome,
No, go
patients.
Welcome, patients.
Hello,
Thanks for
patients.
coming by.
William, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone and what it is that you do.
Well, my name's William Shoney, and I write horror. I used to have a Reddit account, but that has since been deleted. I write scary, disturbing stories. I've been doing that. I've actually been doing it since 9th grade, but I started writing on Reddit about 5 years ago. Yeah, and I've had some people narrate some of my stories over the years. I have an audio play called Nightshade that was narrated by Immunity Zero, and it stars several other narrators like Dr. Creepin, Lady White Rabbit, and a few others.
Excellent. It's a good listen
Amazing.
to.
Yes.
Hey,
Very
Josie.
good. Hi, Josie. There's my wifey. Just kidding.
So you got started with writing horror in 9th grade. How long have you been into the genre in general?
Since I was a kid, I used to watch scary movies with my dad when I'd go to see him, and we'd watch a different one each weekend. That was pretty cool. I've seen the classics like Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, all the rest. I've seen the 80s slasher horror characters like Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, and a few other things from the 90s and stuff that came out in the 2000s. Like, I grew up with 3 generations of horror.
Wow.
That's awesome. Do you think you have a favorite subgenre then? Are you a slasher guy?
I kind of like it, although it gets kind of old after I watched about 5 of them. Although I do get attached to certain characters like Freddy. Like, I just like Freddy as the character, and Jason as well, and I like the lore behind him and the backstories. It's like
sorry, go ahead.
I like the villain I like the horror movie villain more than I do the characters. It's like I know the character is going to end up dying anyway, so I don't really get too attached to them unless they're sometimes I'll be like, please don't kill her, she's a real pretty, or like, oh no, don't kill her, she's cute, don't kill her. But no, they don't. they fall for the same shebang. They, no pun intended, they have sex and get killed. It's like you gotta, stay celibate, or else you're gonna get slaughtered.
Well, while we're waiting for a few more people to join in, I'll give you a little lightning round question. Do you think you've got like 3 top favorites that you can name off? Movies of all kinds.
Oh my, that is hard. Okay, man, that's a 3? Jesus. Okay, I got one in my head. Jeepers Creepers 2. That's my number one. I have a lot of memories attached to that one.
Okay.
I've seen that one like 10,000 times. I like the character, and I like the creeper, and I like just the whole atmosphere of the movie, the music, the setup, the settings, everything. Just it feels spot on. I mean, it just seems like the perfect horror movie to me.
They're
And
underrated, both of them, I think.
the first one was a good mystery, with an excellent climax. The second one was a throwback to the 80s, kind of like the formula of the slasher, except it really wasn't much of a slasher. It was more like it kind of left you up to the imagination, wondering what's he gonna do? What exactly does he do to you when he gets you? It's just you're more worried about him getting you than you are, what happens when you get you, because Freddy had all these weird creative ways of killing people. With the creeper, it's like when he gets you, what's he gonna do? Obviously, and he's gonna eat them, but it's like what else goes on behind closed doors? Because at the very end of the first one, it's like the dairy ends up as like petrified wood. Spoiler alert for whoever's watching. But yeah,
Hold on real quick. Welcome, Gamma, and your ex. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you. Go ahead, continue.
but yeah, Jeepers Creepers 2 is Jeepers Creepers 2 is number one. Number two would have to be Pulse.
Okay. Excellent choice.
Starring Kristen. But have you seen it?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that one a number of times. That was another one. That was another movie and a film I watched with my dad. And
Okay, that one unnerved me.
That one was just frightening because I think it was around the time when my dad first got a computer. My family was kind of a late bloomer when it came to really setting up computers, because I remember we had a real old one for a while, and then we didn't have one for a long time. Then my dad got another one, and and then not long after he bought the computer, Pulse came out. Because I remember I think it came out in theaters in my town. Yeah. And then I saw it on demand back when on demand was it looked like a Windows 95 screen or whatever. Do you remember on demand?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then that came out, and it was just crazy because these ghosts would just, come out of nowhere and they'd suck the life out of you. It kind of made you scared of getting on the computer. So it was...
Well, going back to Freddy, I would have to say, because like psychological horror is probably one of the scariest, and just something about Nightmare on Elm Street and knowing that, we all know it's fiction, it can't possibly happen. But if it could, I would say that would have to be one of the most scariest psychological horrors, because just the thought that, you could dream something like that and die in your sleep in a horrific way, it terrifies me. And then the other one would be definitely Hellraiser. It's like, any box objects, please keep away from people things.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Clive Barker.
Yeah, the Midnight Meat Train. Have you seen that?
Oh, that Midnight Meat Train is by far my favorite of all his short stories, but the movie was actually surprisingly good.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. That one was also an on-demand classic. It was just it was something. When did that come out again?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I think it was like
Probably
2006.
2006. Yeah, something like that. Let's see. 2008. We were close.
Yeah, I was 12.
We have someone else in the chat joining us. Sammy?
Sammy 1011. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
Appreciate the support.
Hello. I'm Creepy Clown Girl. With me is my guest host, Possessed Radio. And we're interviewing William Shoney. Did I say that
Hi,
right?
Sammy. Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Hello again, Sammy.
So,
I had an opportunity today to check out some of your other works. I was already familiar with Nightshade, as it so happened,
Yeah,
from listening to Scream Radio
Immunity
before.
Zero. Oh yeah, Scream
And
Radio.
yep, and I really enjoy it. I love the cool kind of blossoming post-apocalyptic setting you had. Any big inspirations for that?
Well, the idea came when I was on a road trip, and we were in a huge traffic jam in Atlanta, and it was a middle of the night, and I just suddenly thought, what if the sun didn't come up again? And then oh crud, sorry about that notification if y'all heard that, but anyway, that was out of nowhere. But yeah, I had the idea of like, what if the sun never came up? And then more ideas came, and I was like, okay, what if, you know, aliens were involved? What if the sun was blocked out? And it just kind of snowballed from there, you know?
hold on real quick. I can't even talk. Hi, Vida22, and Mama. Thank you both for coming to the stream and joining us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, I remember Vidith. Yeah, I was on a live stream with him like 4 years ago, reading Nightshade. Funny he should show up.
Excellent.
Speaking of Vidith, a couple days ago he did a live stream. I won't go into detail, but I will just say he had all of us rolling. We were like literally dead. We could not stop laughing, and that's all I'm gonna say. But it was a fantastic 4-hour live stream. My face and ribs hurt so bad. But anyways, continue.
Sounds good. Just so you know, Vidith, me and Immunity Zero said that you would make an excellent choice for a character I have in Raising Hell. And I can't spoil. It's too kind of plot heavy here, but like, we have a role for you if you're interested. So hit us up. Well, we'll hit you up when the time comes. Anyway, because your voice sounds perfect for this character that I have. I better shut up before I spoil anything. But yeah, you're great, Viz.
What's
Anyway.
up? Thanks for coming by.
Awesome. It's awesome to have everybody here. Hi, PA. Thank you for joining us. It's awesome to have you too.
Thanks for coming by.
Also, if don't forget to like, comment, and share, as it helps this channel out a lot. So sure to hit that like button. Thank you. And also, what was I going to say, guys? Anyways, carry on.
So, go ahead, man.
Somebody, Josie Kitty mentioned that she was like, you were 12 in 2008. I was in college. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. Yes, I was in the 6th grade when you were, I don't know what you were in college or freshman or whatever, but yeah, I was 12. Now I'm 25.
Wow, doesn't that seem like a lifetime ago?
12, my 12th year? No. Me being 12 does not seem like a lifetime ago. It seemed like it was about a week ago, honestly.
True.
Because like I told you earlier, like I told you earlier, CC, it's just, I don't feel like a 25-year-old man. I feel more like a teenager. And I'm not immature. I can still, do adult things, but it's like, I watch cartoons. I'll be the first to admit I watch cartoons in the morning before I go to work. In fact, I'm watching.
Hey, I used to watch
Pokemon
Mighty
anime.
Mouse. Okay.
And it's just because I find it so uplifting. It's like, and especially now, I take my, happiness very seriously because, with the pandemic and all this other craziness going on. And I still play video games. I still, if I also watch certain kid shows with my nephew. Some I like, some I can't stand. Like Peppa Pig, that drives me insane. But I watch The Loud House with him.
Oh, God.
And Paw Patrol will drive me insane too. But a few cartoons I can watch with my nephew. Others, I gotta get out of there.
We have someone else, Stephen, in the chat.
Let's see. Hair-raising narratives. Welcome.
Hey,
and
hair-raising
also,
narrative.
They ask what cartoons. I know you've said a few. What are the cartoons you enjoy on your own?
Real quick, that was what I was going to say. If any of you have a question for William, drop it in the chat. Thank you. All right.
What cartoons I enjoy? Mostly the stuff that I enjoy, the stuff that I grew up with, like Courage the Cowardly Dog, Ed, Edd and Eddy, Kids Next Door, Dexter's Laboratory. Did you say Dora?
I said excellent. I had my niece for Dora, and that is something I would never care to watch ever again in my life.
Yeah, Dora's kind of. I don't like it. I don't want to, say anything negative about it. See, if you like it, and more power to you, but I'm just not a fan.
We will not talk about Dora or her brother or, oh my God, Peppa Pig. I probably know those shows inside and out, and it's just like Wow Wow Wubsy. I don't know if any of you know Wow Wow Wubsy. Oh, Lord. Oh. Anyways, go on.
I have no idea what that even is.
You'll hear it once, and it'll be stuck in your head. Wow Wow Wubsy. Oh, never mind. Go on.
But yeah, I like the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And again, stuff that I grew up with, all those, and there's other things I really want to get into, like Dragon Ball Z, but that's kind of intimidating since that's such a big series.
Get on that. You have to.
I didn't grow up with it like a lot of people did, but I caught a few episodes when they were on. But yeah, it's something I remember a lot of people talking about at school, but never really jumped on that bandwagon. Probably because it
Excellent
moves
shows,
so fast.
though.
Yeah.
Excellent shows.
But
Let's
there's
see.
so much TV on it.
Go ahead. My apologies. No, go ahead.
There is a lot of TV I want to get into, but just finding the time to sit there, and I also don't have the patience to sit there and do nothing. Like when I was about 19, back when I was watching Supernatural for the first time, I could sit there for hours and watch like 5 episodes of that show in a row. But now I have to, get up and do something after, 30 minutes into a movie. Unless I'm
Real quick, we have 13 views, which is awesome, but only 5 likes. So please remember to hit that like button and show this channel some love. Thank you. And Stephen, or anyone in chat, if you have no further questions, I know William had mentioned to me earlier that he wanted to read the first 3 chapters of a book. It is now 10 minutes to 7:30, so anybody have any questions, or do you, Stephen?
I had one last question for you.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
had sent me the playlist that covered all kinds of stories of yours that had been narrated, and things like I misrecall the name of it, Paying the Price. You've had
The Pay Price.
Nightshade. You have a Pokemon Go abduction. You've got there's a Wario one in there. What
yeah.
do you think your major inspiration is when you're starting to write? Like, what do you look for? Is it just everyday life?
First, I want to start off by saying about the Wario one, that was a gag me and this other author did. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously.
It was entertaining.
So, I'm glad you liked it, but yeah, it's nothing I take seriously. It was just something. It's deliberately supposed to be cringy and stupid. That's what I wanted it to be. And What?
Hold on real quick. Vidith, thank you for stopping by. Always a pleasure having you here. Hope you have a good rest of your evening. Okay,
Take
go
care.
on. Take care.
Yeah, see you, Vidus. Anyway, the Wario one, yeah, it was a fanfic, a Wario fanfic about our friend who's also a narrator named Dave the Useless. That's his channel name. But yeah, and in answer to your question, what makes me want to write is that an idea will come to me and I want to write it down. Like, now's a good time to talk about my novel. When I first got the idea for that, about almost 7 years ago. Oh yeah, just about 7 years ago. Yeah, 2014. I was listening to one of the songs my friend had given me when I went to his house to get some new music, because he had a much bigger collection of music on his phone than I did. Most of it was video game music, but I didn't care. I just wanted some new music. The song "Ain't That Funny" from the Mad World soundtrack. Have any of y'all played Mad World?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That song "Ain't That Funny" came on, and then the idea for Raising Hell came to me back in 2014. It was like the plan was supposed to be for this, like, you know, comic book stuff character to be like, he was supposed to be a kid who's also a vigilante who works alongside his teacher who trains him, and it was supposed to be, you know, a much bloodier version of Batman and Robin, kind of. As crazy as that sounds. And I wrote the manuscript like that for like 3 drafts, and it was just, it felt like something was missing. And while I was at work one day at UPS, the idea to put, you know, Greek mythology in it came, and it stuck. And so I thought, wow, my character's in the Greek pantheon, and I thought about, you know, Zeus and Poseidon and Artemis and the Minotaur and the Chimera and all the rest, them being up against my characters instead of just my characters going around killing thugs and other crazy psychotic villains. I felt like that would get old after a while, but monsters and gods seemed so great. And I wrote a draft about that, and then it needed more again. Then I wrote another draft that was like 1,100 pages, and I realized that would be way too long. Because it went through not only the main character's life, it went through just about everything up until, you know, yeah, the end. I don't want to say much else because part of that plot goes into this one. I don't know. But
you're good.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like you said, it's probably a fitting time to move that way.
Yeah.
If you'd
so
like,
you want me to?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Crud! I accidentally closed it. Love of. All right, I gotta pull it back up again. I can't believe I just did that. I can't.
That's okay. Cece's got jokes for us in the meantime, right?
It's fine. It's not like I got
Me?
something slowing down.
I'm just kidding.
Real
Alright,
quick,
good,
I
like-
am curious though, before you do start. You've been convicted of a crime and now you're on death row. What would your last meal be?
KFC with legs and wings, and mashed potatoes and gravy and coleslaw.
Oh, yum.
Oh, and I might as well tell you something about about something regarding KFC. So back in November of 2019, I this is kind of a funny story. You know how people talk about the butterfly effect and all these creepy stories about that? Well, I think this is a funny way of talking about the butterfly effect. So for a while, I had wanted to buy KFC, just legs and wings, everything I just described to you, and watch all the Lord of the Rings movies. I'd been playing that for a while. I just never got around to it, and then I was like, "Should I get it today?" No. If my aunt sees me with that, because I was living with my aunt at the time, I was afraid she might want to take some of my chicken. I was like, I can't let her have my chicken. I wanted it all to myself, and I wanted to watch Lord of the Rings because I have every Lord of the Rings movie and The Hobbit. I was gonna watch The Hobbit first and then Lord of the Rings while I ate my chicken, but I never got around to it until my dad and my aunt decided to go down to Florida to see their sister, my other aunt, who wasn't doing so well. That's another story. Anyway, they leave. And then later that afternoon, it's yucky outside, and it stopped raining long enough for me to go outside. So I go to the CVS and I get an Uber gift card since I just use the cards. I didn't really use my debit card much, and I pay for the card, scratch it off, and load it on there. It doesn't work. I'm like, damn it! So I was out $25. So I go to Walmart, get a card, scratch it off, load it, nothing. I'm like, God damn it, what the hell's happening? And then I was just so frustrated because it's like, how am I gonna get home in this mess? And then it starts raining real hard while I'm waiting for my order. And they warned me it was gonna be like 45 minutes. I'm like, that's fine. So I'm just scrolling through YouTube, and watching videos, and I'm like, let me try this again. And I get the codes to work, and I'm like, so I got $50 in Uber money. I'm like, there's enough for a whole day trip. Well, back then it was. Now since the pandemic, Uber seems like it's gone up. Again, another story. But I the next day after I've used my Uber money and ate half the chicken, I see that Mullet Mike from Creepy Gaming is about to come to Louisville, where I lived. And do you know who that is, Mullet Mike?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so.
He had the show called Creepy Gaming. His channel's still up if you want to check it out. But he was my favorite. He was my favorite YouTuber. And I was like, oh my God, Mullet Mike's coming down. So I messaged him and I'm like, look, I'd like to meet you. If you don't want to, it's fine. Yada yada yada. And he's like, you know what? Come down. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I'll see you in an hour. I was so happy that I was gonna go to meet my favorite YouTuber in the middle of the freaking night at the bus stop in where I lived, and it's just, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta get to the bus stop, and then I looked to see how much Uber money I got. I had just enough to get down there. I didn't have enough to get back, and then so like it's worth it. So I call the Uber. Meanwhile, I'm looking for my keys. I'm like, where the fuck are my keys? I'm just tearing up my room in the basement looking for the keys, and then I'm like, I'll just go with that on. I use the key in the door. And so I almost did that, and then I found my keys. And then the Uber guy shows up. I go down there. I wait another 30 minutes for Mike to show up, and I'm able to meet Mullet Mike. All because I wanted to freaking KFC and watch Lord of the Rings.
That's always good motivation, though.
Say what?
I said it's good motivation, though.
And that's my butterfly effect story. If I had not wanted to do that, I wouldn't have ever met Mullet Mike, my favorite YouTuber. And I said I told my sister back when I was 17 when I found his channel, I said, I want to meet Mullet Mike one day. And she's like, you could probably see him at the grocery store or somebody like that. It's not like he's, Beyonce. And then I'm thinking, yeah, like I'm going to go all the way to Little Rock just to go to Kroger and hope I see my favorite YouTuber. But lo and behold, I meet him all because I wanted some KFC.
That is amazing. I just love it. There's
Well,
a couple
yeah.
of narrators that I would love to meet in person. So who knows? Maybe in the future.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's Immunity Zero's in the chat.
Yep.
Hey Zero.
Hey,
Welcome, welcome.
Immunity. Thank you for
he said-
joining us.
He said $50 budget equals real life horror back in the day. Haha.
Also, welcome to the Mook.
Hello, Mook.
And Kayla, thanks for coming by. We appreciate it.
Kayla. So, are you ready to read your chapters?
Yes, I got it pulled up. Are y'all ready?
Yeah, let her rip,
I'm
man.
ready. Let it rip.
All right. Again, not the best narrator. That's why I got people doing it for me, like Zero. Anyway, here's the introduction. All right, here it goes. If you told me that gods and monsters were real 7 days ago, I would have said that you were crazy. But when I looked up in the sky on the morning of May 21st, 2012, I was reminded of the many things that were in the sky. A mountain full of Olympian gods? Check. 2 wolves chasing the sun and moon across the sky? Check. There was also a god riding a sun chariot across the sky. And it had been a hell of a ride this past week, but despite all that I had done, there's still more to accomplish. But as I stood outside of my motel room watching the early morning traffic go by, I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. I also thought about everything that could have happened to me, to my friends, to my family. But most of all, I was worried about what was yet to happen. Was I overthinking? You could argue that. Was I scared? Yes. I was very afraid of an uncertain future. To be honest, I wish I would have believed the lies my dad told me my whole life, until a week ago. I wish I were normal. I wish things were different, but they weren't. That was a hard pill to swallow. You want to know what happened, don't you? Here's my account of how my whole world went from 0 to 100 in an hour. Here's how I ended up living in a Norse kingdom on the astral plane. Here's how I ended up in a motel in a small town in the backwoods of Indiana. In backwoods, Indiana. Sorry. Well, my friend, when you turn the page, be prepared for a wild ride. 1 week earlier, Chapter 1: How It All Began. When I walked out of Principal Guillermo's office, it was my last day of school. Did you notice that I said my? I wish I was having a glamorous last day of school, followed by a summer break filled with vacations, cold drinks, and hot babes. For my classmates, this was a month away. For me, Jordan Wallace, I was expelled from school. My guess is I deserved expulsion. I had engaged in a brutal fight with one of my classmates that had sent the victim to the hospital. My mind replayed the event like a movie. I beat the brakes off this guy who bullied me all year, as my other classmates cheered. It was as if I were in the center of the Roman Colosseum, fighting my opponent to the death as onlookers went wild. Yet it all came to an end when I picked him up and slammed him to the ground. He landed headfirst onto the marble floor. That was the day that Marcus Crawford left James Leonard Middle School. No, not James. That was the day Marcus Crawford left James Leonard High School. See, I'm not this good. I'm not as good as you guys are. Y'all still there?
Yes, we're just
keep on
listening,
going.
and you're doing fine.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, we're here.
Epic. He landed headfirst onto the marble floor. That was the day Marcus Crawford left James Leonard High School with a broken nose and a cracked skull. If you asked me, that bastard deserved every punch I threw at him. All those months of verbal and physical bullying came to an end at that moment. But so did my 10th grade year, and so did my time at James Leonard High School. After I was ushered out of the building, I waited for my dad to pick me up. I wondered if he would be upset about the fight. Would he think I took things too far? Would he be upset about having to find a new school for me to attend? Would he be upset about having? Yeah. My questions would soon be answered as I watched my dad pull it in front of the school in his police cruiser. Even though it was not the case, I felt as if was being arrested by my dad. Silence filled the car as Dad drove me home. I was afraid of what he was thinking. I was afraid that he would think his son was some kind of monster. That's why the first words out of his mouth surprised the heck. So are you mad? I asked my dad. About the fight? No. I breathed a sigh of relief. I'm more worried about finding you a new school, Dad postulated. As far as I'm concerned, you did good by standing up for yourself. I thought being at the same high school where my mother teaches would make things better. I mused. I couldn't fit in anywhere. I tried joining clubs. I tried meeting people who liked the same things I do, but that didn't work. Marcus bullied me every single day. If it wasn't him, it would have been someone else.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, I can't either.
I can't hear him either.
Yeah, what's up? Oh, how long have I been popped out?
Yeah.
Say what? I'm. Oh my god, this is embarrassing. Okay. A whole minute. What? Where'd I leave off at? Okay, yeah.
Are we muted off the stream? Because I thought I heard us talking. Oh.
Where Jordan beat somebody up. Okay, yeah. I gotta find.
Can the stream hear the three of us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep. You're doing good, man. Go ahead and keep going.
Yes, you're doing great.
Okay.
Keep going. Yeah. Technical issue, everyone. He's gonna continue now.
Okay.
Real quick, hello to Amateur Animator for joining us.
Alright, I'm getting back to it. If it wasn't him, it would have been someone else. Nobody likes me. I'm sorry you went through that, Dad. Apologize. What about Chloe? Doesn't she hang out with you at school? You two are best friends. We saw each other between classes, but that was it. I observed. We have completely separate lunch schedules, so I can't see her at lunch, all because she skipped a grade back in middle school. I get it, man, Dad said. High school can be rough. How'd your mom take all of this? My mom was furious at the principal's decision to expel me. She was mad that I've been miserable all year at the hands of other students, with little done by the teachers or administrators. Now they're going to expel me, her son. She even threatened to take it up with the school board. I explained all of this to my dad. Sounds like she's heated, Dad snorted. As long as she's not heated at me, I'm okay, I remarked. Dad laughed. You weren't planning on going anywhere tonight, were you? Dad asked. I was planning on hanging out with Chloe later today. She wanted to introduce me to this girl from school. I was afraid you were going out, Dad croaked. Why? I asked, fearing the worst.
There's something weird going on. I can't tell you a whole lot, but I need you to stay home. What? Look, there's a lot I can't tell you. I just need you to trust me. Can Chloe come over? Can Chloe and her friend come over then? I asked Dad. Dad looked unsure. I don't think your mom would be okay with you having company after today, Dad answered. I don't want her to think I'm rewarding bad behavior, so I'm going to make a peacekeeping decision and say no. We didn't speak for the rest of the drive home. I dreaded the conversation I would have with my mom when she came home. I thought about how she would feel about everything that happened. I was scared to death to cross my mother. She was old school. She had no tolerance for bad behavior. Zero. When I saw other kids yell at the teacher and throw pencils, I wouldn't dare participate. I would think to myself, man, if I did that, my mom would tear my head off. My teachers had the power to call my mom at the touch of 3 buttons. All they had to do was dial her room number. 1, 2, 3. And I would be in deep shit. I wasn't scared of my teachers. I wasn't scared of the police. I wasn't even scared of the FBI, CIA, or Area 51. I was, however, deeply afraid of my mother, Teresa Wallace. If I got in trouble, I was going to lose all my video games and every last piece of freedom I had. All I would be allowed to do is read books, do homework, and go to bed. I was a huge gaming. I envisioned my mother's plan for me to fate worse than death. Not being able to play video games, especially after a hard day at school, made me shrivel inside, sorry. Just the thought of losing my video games caused my gut to tie up in knots and dry heaves. What do you think so far? That's the first chapter.
It sounds great, man.
It sounds
Chapter
great.
2. Thanks.
More. Woohoo. Sorry.
Oh, we did have a quick question. What do you know the title of this so far, or is that something that's still in the works?
Oh, it's called Raising Hell. I'm sorry I didn't say it in the beginning.
All good.
It's all
Yeah.
good.
Keep going, man.
Chapter 2, we meet Miss Sharptooth. When we arrived home, I went straight to my room and flopped on my bed. I shut my eyes, ready to have a proper ending to a very stressful day. I allowed myself to drift off into the void of the unconscious mind as my body fell into a restful slumber. I was ripped out of my slumber by the sound of my cell phone. It was my friend Chloe. Hello? I said groggily. I was confused by the phone call because Chloe hadn't showed up to school on that fateful day. Is it true? Did you really put Marcus in a coma? She asked. Her words were not of concern. She was tantalized by the thought of nerdy Jordan pummeling the biggest bully. I could sense her curiosity. She was eager for juicy gossip. Well, yes, I did, but damn, she mused. From what I heard, the dude had it coming. But that's still a lot to take in. I didn't think you had it in you. Neither did I. I was surprised by my self-assessment. It wasn't cool to admit my own self-perceived weaknesses. Want to come over? Chloe asked. Yeah, but not sure I can escape because of what I did, I retorted. Why weren't you at school today? I got good grades on this past report card, so Dad let me play hooky, Chloe answered. I walked into the living room, glanced in the kitchen, not seeing my dad. I bolted over to Chloe's house. I gave the gruesome details. I told her I was expelled from school. She wasn't happy when I told her this because we would no longer see each other between classes. She told me that I was her only relief from being around all of the idiots in her class. We wondered if Marcus's parents would try to press charges, or worse, file a lawsuit that would put my family through years of financial torture. Our gossip session ended when Chloe's phone rang. It was our friend Zoe. Hi, Zoe, Chloe answered with glee. What? Chloe hissed. No way. Are you serious? You're right, she responded. What are you talking about? I whispered. Chloe put Zoe on speakerphone. Hey, Jordan, Zoe said. You know how you guys have been wanting that Spartan of War game for so long? And just so you know, Spartan of War is a parody of God of War. So, and people who are gonna read this when it comes out, it'll be mentioned quite often.
Gotcha.
Have y'all played God of War before?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure I knew it. All right, the story.
This is really interesting.
All right, I'm getting back to it. You know, you know how you guys have been wanting Spartan of War for the Spartan of War game for so long? Yeah, I answered with a slight touch of bitterness in my voice. But it comes out in a week and we're flat broke. Well, I found a solution. My brother Alan was running the concession stand at the last football game at Abe Lincoln High School. Miss Jackson always forgets to collect the money from the register after the game, so here's our chance to get in the concession stand, collect the money. We split the take, and then you have your game. Zoe, excuse me. Zoe, that's a crime. You're talking about breaking and entering and theft on school grounds. I hesitated as I stared at Chloe's phone. We'd go to prison for this. Zoe laughed. Well, that's not going to happen. Alan swiped the keys to the concession stand and the register, so there isn't going to be any smashing through doors or windows. We just walk in, walk out with our money. There should be more than $1,000 on the register since so many showed up for the last game. It's foolproof. Sounds simple, if I do say so myself. Chloe agreed with a touch of confidence. I thought about the video game. I thought about going to prison. I could hear the judge give me 10 years for breaking and entering and absconding with other people, followed by a sharp slam of the gavel. I could see myself taking the fresh fish walk to my new cell, only to discover my cellmate was a lifer killer. Not killer, killer, with an A. I imagine killer would be a mountain of a man with a 24-pack along with "fuck you" written on his forehead. I was terrified of getting caught, but with two girls and Alan driving, there was no turning back. On the drive to the school, I felt my heart sinking to my stomach. It was as if I were on my way to prison to get my ass kicked by Killa. I hadn't committed the crime yet. And when Alan stopped the car, our shiver ran down my spine. This was it. We were doing this. If I got caught, I would be arrested and probably tried as an adult. I could see Killa taking my cheeks if he saw me dropping the soap. I heard the clamoring and shouting and mayhem of the prison riot. My mind was being buried alive in a grave of fear as we drove closer to Abe Lincoln High School. We parked down the street from the school and began the walk to the concession stand. Are you sure everyone's gone? I asked Zoe. Alan glared at me. Irritated, I was holding up and increasing our risk of getting caught. No shit, everyone's gone, he snapped. It's Friday. Who the fuck sticks around on a Friday? Even the people who's staying for detention are gone by now. I frowned. Let's go, Zoe said, preventing her sibling from more verbal assaults. We don't have all day. Let's get our money. We made our way across the schoolyard and headed to the football field. I smiled when I spied the condition of the concession stand. It was an old, rundown shack, barely bigger than a backyard tool shed. It was rotting. The wood was rotting in places, and dozens of shingles were missing, and a dozen roof shingles. The metal curtain-like door presented itself like a welcome sign. We were at our goal. This is, I thought, as a grin stretched across my face. We sped towards the old shack at the door. All right, one of you keep watch, Alan commanded. If you see anyone, whistle. That will let us know to make a run for the car. Okay, guys, hurry up, I explained, not realizing I had just volunteered to be the watchman. I hadn't been paying attention to what Alan was saying because I was so wrapped up in my thoughts. Alan unlocked the door and went into the old shack with the rest of the gang. I looked around to see if anyone was about. There was not a soul in sight, but I sensed that things were not moving fast enough. I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard the cash register open. I inched inside and watched Alan take hunks of money out of the cash register and stuff them into his backpack. What the fuck are you looking at? Alan spat. Keep watch, asshole. I ain't going back to juvie. When I walked out of the shack, I looked around again. To my horror, I ran right into a salt and pepper haired lady. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach when I saw a teacher with an ID hanging from the neck that read Natalie Jackson. Who are you? She snapped. You aren't supposed to be here after school hours. Her voice was deep for a woman. Her demeanor was loud and intimidating. She reminded me of a drill sergeant. Her eyes locked on something behind me. I didn't need to look to know what it was. I didn't need to look back to know what it was. What the hell? She bellowed. You thieving low-down dogs! I'm calling the police. She pulled out a prepaid flip phone and dialed 911. Suddenly, time slowed to a crawl. I was shoved to the side by a strong hand and watched as Allen's fist slammed into Miss Jackson's jaw. I almost said fish for some reason. The poor woman fell to the ground, dropping her phone. Allen then stomped on the cell phone, breaking it in half. To my surprise, the old woman jumped back up and let out a bone-chilling screech. The noise was an agonizing cry to the wind, a cry that was filled with centuries of hellish rage and pain that seemed to cry from the depths of the hinterland. Her skin changed to a dark shade of gray. The whites of her eyes were bright yellow, with an inky black spot in each center. They bulged out of her skull as if ready to pop. Her nails were long and sharp, deadly claws that with brown hooks, ready to catch and tear into her prey. Her leg appeared to be solid bronze. Her left leg was a donkey's leg. I knew from the look of her set of claws that she could easily do me damage. The salt and pepper monster stared at us, and we stared back. She gave us a gut ring that was filled with 2 rows of pointy dagger-like teeth that were made to tear the flesh of her victim. When she opened her mouth, I saw two sets of molars that I was sure she used for crushing bones to dust. She needed no words. The look on her stance told us that we were her prey, and this is where we die. She lunged at us, and we fell to the ground. The monster She lunged at me, and we fell to the ground. Sorry, I messed up there. The monster jumped on top of me. The first thing that my eyes locked onto was her hand. I thought about her razor-sharp claws slicing into my face. I whipped my head to the left, and she slashed the dirt below me. As I looked up, I saw the ugly creature lunge for Chloe. With a loud thud, Allen threw himself at the foul beast. I rose up and saw the two struggling with each other. They punched, kicked, scratched, clawed, and bit each other. With all the strength he had, Allen ripped the creature off and clambered to his feet. His face was bruised and mutilated by the monster. A large piece of torn flesh hung from Allen's left cheek. I could see the inside of his. The poor guy looked like a zombie. I stood there frozen at the sight, but I had snapped out of my trance when Allen uttered the words. Sorry, I messed up again. When Allen uttered the words, "Get out of here." Within seconds, Miss Jackson wrapped her arms around Allen and sank her teeth into his neck. She ripped out his jugular vein with a loud squelch. "Run, Jordan!" Chloe yelled. We sped away from the horrific sight to where I was not sure. As we ran, I looked back to see if we were being chased, but all I saw was Miss Jackson tearing into Allen's lifeless, bloody corpse as we scurried away. I thought, going back to juvie, least of Allen's troubles. And that's the end of that chapter.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely excellent. I'm picturing this whole thing, and it's like, I'm glad I'm not eating, but yeah.
I did have a question before you got to the 3rd chapter. Is this currently available anywhere?
It is not yet. I'm in the querying process because I'm publishing this traditionally. I thought about doing the Amazon route, but I realized that wasn't a good idea. But I'm just doing this as like a pre-promotion for when it does come out.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll have to keep us up to date on the breaking news.
Okay.
Also real quick, welcome to Mandy Mortem for joining us, Timothy Duran, and Ghost Inc. Thank you guys for joining us.
I know both Timothy and Mandy. Hey guys. And
continue on, man. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I'm just reading the chat myself. Immunity Zero says live reads are always so interesting. No worries on the slight mistakes.
Oh yeah,
Right.
it's hard. It's hard.
Manny
You're
Morton
Doing
says,
great.
oh, thank you. But yeah, it's so like, what do y'all think? So y'all think the story is great so far?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I was like, more? I love the ripping apart part. Yeah. Yeah. I like this.
Yeah, I'm just going through the chat. Yeah, Mandy said we used to talk. I mean, yeah, Mandy. I still see those weird tweets you have and everything else. I'm glad that Chad is liking the story. It seems.
Yes. They're
Yes.
really liking it.
Yeah, Possessed Radio. Oh, well, he's right here, but yeah, he says he's killing it. I hate live readings, and I have lots of practice, and I still suck. Thanks.
It's
I
not
didn't
easy,
know
man.
I didn't think I was that good. I kept stuttering. I was like, shit, I missed this word. I said this wrong.
No, just keep your head down and keep moving forward. That's all you can do.
Right?
Yeah.
In
All right.
past podcasts, I read a couple of my poems, and I know the intensity of it, and it's like, you want me to do what? It's like, no,
The biggest thing for me was realizing that if I messed up like a word or something and it still kind of made sense, you just don't even acknowledge it because nobody else can see it. Nobody would ever know you
Right.
screwed up.
You're
Right. But you're doing great so far. Everybody's loving it. So we'll go ahead and let you continue. And thank you
All right,
again to
just a-
everyone for being in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And just so y'all know, this is going to be the last chapter I'm going to read. And yeah, if y'all like it, y'all know y'all got something to look forward to. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue. We ran until we made it to Alan's car. None of us had a driver's license, nor did we have the keys. Sadly, there was no speeding to safety. We leaned against the car and proceeded to catch our breath. I need to catch mine right quick. God. What was that thing? My thoughts were racing like a wild animal backed up against a tree, eyeing its predator. My mind whirled. Why was that thing? Why was it at a high school? Why was Alan eaten by that thing? Finally, my voice worked. What was that thing? I asked. An impusa, Chloe answered. I gave her a confused look. What? An impusa? It's a monster from Greek mythology. You mean like Zeus and the Minotaur? Yeah, Chloe reluctantly confirmed. That shit isn't real, I argued. That was Alan being eaten real enough for you? Chloe protested. But before I could continue to argue with her, I noticed that Zoe looked a little dizzy. She stumbled forward, clutched her gut, and vomited onto the pavement. Chunks of bile spewed out of Zoe's mouth like a punctured beer can. Chloe and I backed away from Zoe, as Zoe emptied her stomach. We were still in a stupor, our eyes fixated on Zoe's vomiting. Her gut wrenched us off and on for several minutes. When Zoe was spent, they both rhyme. I don't know why I came up with two names that rhyme. Okay. When she was spent, Zoe sat on the sidewalk and rocked back and forth in a fetal position. As I watched, I felt a surge of helplessness. I was not equipped to handle a man-eating monster from Greek mythology, nor was I equipped to comfort a young teen who just lost a brother to a horrific monster. My mind flashed back to the morning when I had flipped out and beat the daylights out of Marcus. My thoughts jumped forward to the concession shack. Alan has violent end, and our narrow escape. I was shaking inside. I thought I would follow Zoe's performance up. What do we do? I asked. Chloe pulled out her phone. Who are you calling? I asked, as in concerned about getting into trouble. Chloe ignored me and talking in Spanish. My mind nagged me. How many times I wished I could speak Spanish? I felt it was a shortcoming because I had a Mexican. and I couldn't speak a word of. I need to learn Chloe's language. The need to learn Chloe's language hit me hard at this precise moment. I really needed to know what Chloe was saying to the person on the other end. I could hear a male voice responding to Chloe. It wasn't a voice I recognized. It had a deeper tenor, and it was one of surprise. Luckily, it wasn't the voice of her father, Carlos, or her uncle Sergio. Neither of them would be calm knowing Zoe wasn't. When Chloe hung up, I glared at her. Who was that? I snorted. My guy, she answered me. What do you mean, your guy? He's going to explain everything. Picks us up. She assured me. So what you're saying is, like the Greek gods from our Spartan war game are real? I was incredulous. I continued. Ares, Zeus, Artemis, Hades, Poseidon, Aphrodite? I'm afraid so, she confirmed. So are the Norse gods like Odin, Tyr, and Loki. Even the Egyptian ones like Ra, Osiris, and Anubis. Every place has its gods and holy shit, I cried. I thought about all the stories my dad would tell me before bed about Greek heroes and Vikings, tales of Norse kings and dragons being slayed by fierce warriors. All of it was true. Given my limited experience in the three-dimensional reality, this was not for me to take in. I stood in silence with Chloe. Zoe still rocked back and forth mumbling to herself in a way we were both in some sort of shock. The poor girl watched her brother get eaten by a monster. I discovered all the ancient gods and goddesses were. At that moment, I didn't know how or why, but I knew my life has changed forever. A black BMW tinted window pulled up to us, and Chloe told us that this was our ride. I felt lost. I wanted to get down on and cry. I pulled my thoughts back to the present and stared at the Chloe had summoned. What do we do? What do we do about Zoe? I asked. Her mother is going to pick her up, Chloe said. She doesn't need to be involved. She doesn't need to be involved with any of this any more than she already. When I hopped into the car, I was surprised to see that the driver was my 8th grade history teacher, Andre Maxwell. Mr. Maxwell nodded at me. Oddly, I felt somewhat assured. How's it going, Mr. Wallace? Mr. Maxwell asked. I said nothing. He's a tad bit shook up, Chloe said. I see, Mr. Maxwell acknowledged. Andre Maxwell was a tall, muscular, dark-skinned, with a bald head and a mustache tee. He wore a stern look in his eye, as if he had seen a lot in his life. Knowing now that the supernatural world exists, I can only imagine what horrors Mr. Maxwell had seen. If you got questions, now's the time to ask. Ask them, Chloe told me. At that moment, millions of questions flew through my brain like from a firing squad. But which one should I ask? Which one should I refrain from? I felt more overlooked than I had in my short life. I didn't know what to say or do, yet there was so much to say and so much to do all at once. It was decided by Mr. Maxwell we would wait until Chloe's mom came to pick her up. Silent type, huh? Mr. Maxwell sighed. I frowned. Zoe smirked at me. Well, you're probably wondering why the impusa was here to be, Mr. Maxwell guessed. That was because of Chloe. I opened my mouth and stared in panic, wondering if Chloe was an evil witch or worse. Chloe is a demigod, Mr. Maxwell revealed. She's the daughter of Demeter, the Greek goddess of agriculture, the natural order, and fertility. I'll let her explain first. I'm going to check on Zoe. Mr. Maxwell got out of the car and walked over to Zoe and sat next to her. He put his arm around her, best to calm her down. So much was going on at once that it was difficult to take all of it in. She'll never be the same, Chloe said, I don't know how she's going to handle this one. I gawked at Chloe, still surprised that the girl I had known since we were in diapers was half Greek goddess. I'd never noticed anything odd about her, aside from her mother never being. I didn't pay any mind to it. I do remember asking about her mother, but she told me that they had a very distant relationship. I imagine goddesses didn't actually. I imagine that a goddess wouldn't exactly come to Chloe's Little League softball games. The distant part was definitely, but why did a monster come after her? Why did the Impusa want you of all people? Demigods and gifted entities are hunted down by monsters than humans are. Chloe explained. Godhood that rests inside of us burns bright like a raging fire. Also on the astral plane, we look like light. Alan knew this. That's why he threw himself at. Alan knew about you? I blurted. Did Zoe? Yes, both did, Chloe confessed. But they agreed to keep it a secret, especially from their very Christian. Now that the cat's out of the bag, Mr. Maxwell chirped in. As he opened the driver's side door, he got in and reached into the middle console to grab something. You need to know about your dad. What about him? I asked fearfully. When my question could be answered, Zoe's mom pulled in front of us in a 2005 Dodge. Hold that thought, Mr. Maxwell said. He got out of the car and greeted Zoe. The two helped Zoe into her mom's car. They talked briefly. I couldn't hear what was being said, but it looked like Mr. Maxwell had everything under control. When Mr. Maxwell came back to the car, he looked satisfied. So here's the deal, Mr. Maxwell expressed. The story is that Alan took you with him to see a couple of dealers in order to score some pot. You thought you were going to a friend's house. You thought you were going to his friend's house to play some video games. Chloe and I looked at each other with concern. But the deal went bad, and Alan fought back, so you could all escape. Mr. Maxwell continued. Why are you telling us this? Chloe asked. I used the Atlas charm on Zoe and her mom. So that's the story. I told her as to why Zoe is in a state of shock. When Zoe calms down, that's what she'll remember seeing. When Alan's body is found, that's the story that'll be told and believed. What's an Atlas charm? I asked. Atlas or mist is the magic that keeps mortals from seeing the supernatural. It's used by the Greek gods and other members of the pantheon. Enough about magic, I retorted. Tell me about my dad. No need for fear, Jordan, Mr. Maxwell assured as he began to drive. There's nothing wrong with him, if that's what you're afraid of. But he and I go way back. Your father and I met when he was still hunting monsters and receiving support from the kingdom of Eoden. He was one of the best hunters I ever met. That was until he retired and joined the local police force. My dad really hunted monsters? I asked. I shook my head back and forth, trying to process the information. I was over. Everything from vampires to skinwalkers to bigger monsters like dragons. Mr. Maxwell reminisced. Sorry. In fact, your dad was the last person to slay a dragon since the medieval times. Before your dad's conquest, the last dragon was slain in the autumn of 1376. This keeps getting weirder and weirder, I asked. More layers of fear formed in my heart as I saw how close we were to my neighborhood. I was nervous about how the talk with my father. I'm not sure many people would ask their dad about slaying a dragon or hunting vampires was like, or what hunting vampires was like. I felt as if we were in some kind of limbo. I was walking away from one life, a familiar, predictable one, into another that was filled with excitement and exception. Not bad. Laugh. It shook my frame from top to bottom. I wasn't sure if I could walk or talk after witnessing the Impusa's brutal, vicious attack. First targeting Chloe, but then leaving Alan. When we arrived at my house, I took a deep breath, jumped out of Mr. Maxwell's car. I hadn't been this nervous about going home since my first report card day in 5th grade. We walked through the front door, and I found my dad in an armchair watching a Bang Bang shoot 'em up movie. He saw us and shot up and muted. He saw us, and when he saw us, my dad shot up and muted the TV. Andre Maxwell? Why is my son with you? He found out about our world. My dad's eyes grew wide with fear. What happened? He demanded. Are you hurt? Was it a poltergeist or an Impusa? I injected. It was after me, but then targeted Chloe. Alan jumped in and was eaten by it. Dad, Zoe's in a state of shock. I couldn't continue. I slumped into a chair. That's what happens to most people when they go from a normal life to a lifestyle from That's what happens to most people when they go from a normal 9 to 5 lifestyle to seeing a monster. Mr. Maxwell explained, their brains just can't handle it. When, with my head in my hands, I began to talk with a feeble voice, but then in a desperate, fearful tenor. I described to Dad and Mr. Maxwell the excruciating detail, everything that led up to Alan's death. I could ground you for a month, Dad suggested, but what you've been through seems like punishment enough. But then turned to Mr. Maxwell. Andre, I knew this day would come, but I sure as hell didn't think it would be like this. They both laughed, and even though the pallor of death hung in the air, the mood lightened up a little. Dad eyed Mr. Maxwell with a serious. So now's the time, Dad said. I think my son needs to go with you to the lodge. What's the lodge? It's a place where old monster hunters meet to train new ones. Dad explained. It's in the backwoods of Virginia. Are you coming? Asked Mr. Maxwell. We'd love to have you back, and I'm sure there are other newbies who would love to. Wait, I'm not trying to hunt monsters, you guys. I can barely fill out a math work without help. I disagree, Jordan. And you need to learn to survive in this. Dad said firmly. Your mere knowledge of the supernatural marks you as a target. It's going to be that way until the day you die. This training is not up for negotiation. Defeated, I bowed my head. I would be going to the backwoods of Virginia, trying to fight monsters. Even though the words were spoken, I still had a hard time believing that I was going to learn how to hunt supernatural beings. I began to question my sanity. I questioned the sanity of my dad, Mr. Maxwell, Chloe. But then the image of Alan being torn to pieces, blood spewing everywhere, crystallized in my. I straightened my shoulders, nodded at my dad, and began to look forward to the prospect of learning a new skill. Dad and I said goodbye to Chloe, and Mr. Maxwell. After Dad closed the front door and locked it, I had a sudden realization. You knew about all of this my whole life, and you didn't even tell me, I said. I intended to say it in my mind, but the words flew out of me like Taco Bell and laxative. You're right. I've always known about this world, Dad confessed. I fucking grew up in it. It's the reason I live so far from home. Home? I remarked. You said you were born and raised in Louisville. You said that my grandparents on your side of the family died in a fire at a bowling alley. Dad frowned, knowing his lies had been discovered. You showed me the newspaper article, I shouted. I felt my anger levels increase. I copied an article from the public library, Dad confessed. Not all of it was a lie. I was there on that fateful morning. Not all of it was a lie, I scoffed. What's the truth, I snapped. Dad hesitated. What's the truth? I repeated. I opened my mouth to say something, but held my. He opened his mouth to say something, but he held himself back. I could see he was choosing his next words carefully. Tell me the truth, God damn it! Dad gave me a shocked look that told me he was surprised at my outburst. A look that snapped him out of his thought. A look that said it was time for me to hear the truth. Sit down, he said firmly. I said sit down, he yelled. I sat down on the love seat next to the arm. Dad left the living room and disappeared into the kitchen. I heard him rummaging through the fridge. He came back with 2 bottles of Miller High Life. He handed me a bottle and sat down. He twisted the cap off and took a long swig. Have a drink with your old man, Dad laughed. I breathed a sigh of relief, and then I noticed that I wasn't in any kind of trouble for swearing at him, but I was a bit reluctant to drink alcohol for them. This is illegal, I said. Hey, this is my house, Dad established. I'm the fucking law under this. Crack the bottle and take a drink. I did as he asked. I took a swig of beer. It was quite bitter, and the carbonation was pretty intense. Yuck! I gagged. Dad laughed at my reaction. You had to develop a taste for beer, Dad. I thought you could use one for what I'm about to tell you. I'm listening. I was born in Canada, a society called the Kingdom of. My parents were both Norse demigods. My father was the son of Tyr, the Norse god of justice. My mother was the daughter of Freya, the Norse goddess of love. Life was quite different in regular society. School, for example, was learning to read, write, basic math, Norse history, and the kingdom's history. The rest of schooling was learning how to survive in the supernatural. We learned everything there was to know about monsters in Norse pagan. We later ventured out into other mythology. Once I reached the age of 12, I began learning how to sword fight, use a bow and arrow, and other weapons. Wow, I reacted. That's not all, Dad said. That's not all, he said. Dad took another swig of it. When I turned 16, I became a Reaper. The Reapers were a group of monster hunters who patrolled. We were basically a supernatural police. Life was strict and scary. We kept our hair short and we stayed in shape. Shaved my head when I joined and stayed bald. Long hair is a liability. Something could pull your hair back and slash your. Yikes! I commented. My dad is 6'2" and weighs 250 pounds, all muscle. He's not a guy you would want to fight. I listened and think things started to make sense. Mouth getting dry. The intense look in his eye. His behavior was a huge red flag because I'd always felt like he was hiding something. I knew he had killed people on the job. That was no secret because he'd always tell me about the cases. Usually behind my mother's back against her. But I could never could have guessed any of this. We patrolled all of parts of the northwestern USA, and I had an interest in venturing out. I began exploring the United States and discovered the most diverse group of monsters I had ever seen. Monsters that are not only from the Norse pantheon, but from Greek, Celtic, Japanese, Aztec, Egyptian, Slavic, and many. America is known for being a great melting pot of people. The same applies to monsters. That's horrifying. That it is. I hunted and killed monsters for 15 years until I decided to leave that life and that world. But that meant leaving my family and friends. It was a sacrifice that I was willing. I saw an ad for police officers in Louisville, Kentucky. I applied, and after I was accepted, I relocated. I wanted to help normal people with no problem. But even those can be horrible, if not worse than any monster attack. What made you retire from monster hunting? I asked. Dad's eyes got wide. One last long swig of his, with a loud gulp. I do not have enough alcohol to tell you about the McCormick case in Montana, but I will tell you this: there is a reason that the dead and the living stay separate. Dad's cell phone began ringing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Who is it? Everything okay on y'all's end? I hear some rustling. Yo, what's up?
What?
Okay. I heard rustling. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. Dad's cell phone began ringing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Who is it? I asked. Your sister, he replied. I need to take this. Go to your room. What? I said, confused. Go to your room and play video games, he ordered. Look, whatever you're going to say, I don't need to be left out of it, I assured. Do as I say, Jordan. He snapped. I rolled my eyes, made my way to close the door. I saw an empty glass that I left on my neck. And I pressed the glass against it. I began eating. You wouldn't believe what happened. You wouldn't believe what happened to Jordan. Dad began telling my sister Lily about what happened to Chloe, and Lily was my older sister. If you saw us together, you wouldn't be able to tell that we were siblings. She looks nothing like me at all. I'm 5'9", jet black hair, brown eyes, caramel brown skin. Lily has blonde hair and blue eyes. Lily has blonde hair and blue eyes. She is 5'2", and her skin is light against her neck. Her hair is so blonde that it looks almost white. When my mom gave birth to Lily, she came out looking as pale as a baby. My parents nicknamed her Casper and the name stuck. She lives with her boyfriend, who loves calling her Casper, in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where she attends Western Kentucky University.
Is that my mic cracking?
I think we've got a little bit of echo, but I think it might be bouncing from CC.
Hold on.
Correct.
Go ahead. I think we're good now.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My parents nicknamed her Casper, and the name stuck. She lives with her boyfriend, Ted, who loves calling her Casper, in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where she attends Western Kentucky University. Lily is studying to become an archaeologist. Dad's conversation with Lily switched to our mother. That was another thing. For my whole life, my mom would drive to Madisonville, Kentucky 3 days out of every month on a full moon. Bet I never knew why. Hang on one sec. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that was another thing. For my whole life, my mom would drive to Madisonville, Kentucky for 3 days out of every month on a full moon, but I never knew why. How's your mother doing? She asked it. How's your mother doing? I asked Dad. For a moment, Dad said, "Good. I'm glad she made it to Madisonville okay. On time." Another pause. Then Dad chirped in, I know, but this is how it's always been. If we change things now, it won't end well. Do you know what could happen if she was seen like that?" Lily to finish her thought, and then her dad. "Jordan has enough on his plate, Lily. He's not ready to know about his mother yet." A pause. Dad then informed Lily, "He's going to know plenty when he goes." After taking in Lily's reaction, Dad mused, "I might tell him tomorrow, or I might wait. You leave that one to me. I'll handle things with Jordan. You make sure your mother stays all right. So when you get off the phone with me, start heading to Madisonville. Make sure she's on your grandmother's land. No later than 9:30. Do not be 1 minute late. My grandmother owns 60 acres of land that consists of a big field and a good-sized forest. Why does my mom need to be there? Why is Dad worried about her being seen?" My mind was filled with even more questions that lacked answers. Was she some kind of monster? If she's a monster, does that mean I'm a monster? What if Dad's a monster? What if Lily's a monster? What if I'm a monster? All I could do is hope for answers, hope for good news. And that's the end of that chapter.
Excellent job, man.
Excellent. This is an amazing story, and we want more. We cannot wait.
Golly.
You'll have to supply us updates with the publishing process as they go.
Yeah, querying's not easy. I've been getting rejection after rejection, and it's just the same thing every time, except in different words. They always say this is not for me. It's invented in a polite, professional way, but I don't understand why it's not for them. But that's on them. I'm not gonna dwell on it because I've already done that. But yeah, I guess just part of the process.
Absolutely.
They don't know what kind of story and author they're letting go.
But yeah, you can now see why it's full of adults. Did y'all laugh at that prison rape joke I made earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, a kid in middle school or high school shouldn't be reading this.
No. So I'm curious what the mother is, unless she's a werewolf.
I cannot spoil that.
I know you can't.
But yeah, you'll find out soon enough. Oh God, you're gonna find out a lot about this world. Oh,
It's a world I want to really, really go into and just get lost. It's like, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of source material you have to play with, so there's a lot of potential for all kinds of ways to take this. So excellent job, man.
let's just say do your research on Greek and Norse mythology, and it's gonna be a pretty accurate plus and then some. That's all I'm gonna say.
Awesome job.
We're looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
Fantastic.
this is
Yes,
not a
we are.
very beginner-friendly story. So, yeah. So, I mean, like beginner if you don't know about mythology.
Oh, excuse me. Also, I'd like to say hello to Breaker, and I think we have someone else in the chat. Stephen.
Let's see. I saw Breaker, and I think he was the newest one to arrive.
Okay. All right. So what did all of you think of the story in the chat? Let's hear your opinions. That'd be awesome.
That would be.
While they're typing that up, do you have any other projects in the works?
Nightshade Zero, Immunity Zero knows about that. I've been keeping him. I've been sending him updates to it. And in Zero, I've sent it to you on Google Docs if you ever want to give it a read. I've been at work. I've also been brainstorming the new stuff for Nightshade. So if you have any questions about the old one, feel free to ask. A lot of that stuff I'm not going to use for the new one. So
Okay.
If you want to ask me about what I had in mind for the previous Nightshade draft, I will tell you all of it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to fill us in a little bit, I know I've listened to the first 4 parts.
Well, you already know. I told you earlier about how the next episode was going to be this one about where the meteor was supposed to hatch full of insectoid hornets where they're going to attack the settlement.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, it was going to be, run by this cult leader, who thinks he has his powers from angels, but really the powers came from, alien DNA.
Actually,
So, yeah.
I think that's a strength of yours. You found a way to really weave in a lot of different elements, and you make it so that it all fits into one good story.
Not a lot of people can do that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
But yeah. Zero says, I've been reading through Nightshade and Raising Hell, my friend. I've been loving it. Oh, I'm glad you love it, Zero.
You are also... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
How far did you get, Zero? Just say what chapter that you got to. If you made it, just don't spoil it. Tell me, just type in the chapter name to where you got to on Raising Hell. No, I'm just gonna leave it at that. What'd you want to ask me?
Nothing. I was going to say, it looks like you're also Patience and Raven approved on the story, so excellent job.
Thanks. But yeah, I had 9 episodes written for Nightshade, but it didn't work out. Stuff came up on the actors' ends, and we never really got around to doing the rest of it. But I'm glad we didn't, because the new one is going to be a lot more action-packed, a lot scarier, a lot more detailed. It's going to be a far cry from the original idea.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do with it.
I can't wait either.
What do you have next for him?
Just some more questions. I know it's...
Hold that thought. I gotta use the restroom, okay?
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Well, we appreciate everybody hanging out tonight.
Yes, we do. Thank you for coming.
Support means a lot.
Yes, it does. Thank you to you, Stephen, for filling in today and helping me out. Awesome.
Anytime. Happy to help. Like I had said before, I would try to do my best Filia impression, but I'm afraid I just don't have the range for that.
Oh, I don't either. So, Filia, we love you, and love you, sis, and my heart and prayers go out to you guys. So,
Definitely.
So sad about Gato. Gato we have actually 2 mascot kitties. One of them was Gato, and the other one was Kayla's cat Pikachu. So, yeah, they're both mascots of the carnival, and it's sad to see one of them go.
Yeah, absolutely. Losing a pet's the worst.
It is. It is.
All right, I'm back. I had to run and get a bottle of water. My mouth feels like the Sahara Desert.
All good, man.
Know that.
All good.
It's all good. So anything from the chat, Stephen, before I continue on?
I also had missed that Mandy also enjoyed the story, and so did your ex-husband.
Awesome.
I don't have an ex-husband.
Hi, X. Thanks for joining.
I like the name though. All jokes aside.
Go ahead.
Never mind. That was dumb. I'm glad I didn't say it. Go ahead.
So a couple more questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. Okay, hold on. I'm yawning. Not allowed. So, you've passed away. Who would you want to read your eulogy and why?
Repeat that.
You've died. You're
Okay.
dead. Who would you want to read your eulogy? Eulogy could be anyone you want.
What's a eulogy? If you don't, what is that?
You
like
know,
At the funeral when somebody's giving a speech about you and how great you were.
Probably my sister if she's still alive. But if not her, I would probably choose my nephew.
awesome.
I mean, I imagine I'm gonna be the last one to die in my family. I don't know why that is, but well, I'm the youngest. That's why that is. I'm the youngest of 17 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would want Anthony Hopkins, Sam Elliott, but as far as a horror narrator, I'm going to say either Monsters in My Mind or Vida 22.
If it was a horror narrator, I'd probably choose either Zero or Dr. Creepin.
Good choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have any more questions, Stephen? Anyone in the chat, any questions before we wrap up the show?
I did want to read another thing that I have. It's called 10 Facts About William Shoney that I originally posted on Reddit, if y'all don't mind.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just a little bit about me. I told y'all number one, I'm the youngest of 17 grandchildren. I was born on the anniversary of when Emperor Tiberius died. Number three is my full name is William Leonard Shakespeare Shoney III. And my first word is unknown because my babysitter was Ugandan and spoke her language around me and her nephew when I was learning to talk. So I learned Swahili instead of English. So my parents had to teach me how to speak English because all I knew how to understand was Swahili because of my babysitter.
Awesome.
I don't know how to speak or understand that language now, but it was just, a crazy story from back then. I appeared on a web show called Bad Graphics Gamers, where I put 33 warheads in my mouth for a discount on a hacked Super Nintendo game. It was called the video is called Louisville Schmuckers Part 1. I appear at the very end. And number 6 is that I'm a huge video game nerd. Yes, believe it or not, as hard as I work on my writing, I still make time to play video games. Yeah. My mother was a teacher at the middle school that I attended for 2 years. And number 8 is I almost got arrested for writing my first novel. I began writing Raising Hell during the senior year of high school, and it began as like I told y'all before, the superhero novel. It was about the vigilante, but then at first I wrote about a kid who killed bullies, and I named the villains after people I didn't like. Then my sixth period teacher found it and took it to the vice principal, and things got heated from there, which it did.
Oh. Wow.
It was just it was like something I was just freestyling with on my spare time. And then she, like, I can understand looking back why she took that seriously, but it's like, I'm thinking this is just a story. It's fiction. Like, none of this ever happened. Like, you know, I had my character doing some wild stuff that I couldn't physically do. It's yeah. Number 9 is I listen to all types of music. I'm constantly finding new songs I like. I don't think I will ever be that old person who listens to music only from their decade. So I'm a very eclectic type of person. And number 10, despite me being a horror writer, I've been told I'm hilarious. Many friends and family members have told me that I should do stand-up comedy. I feel like this is a bit ironic. I am scaring people, and yet I'm a very funny guy. And that's it.
Awesome.
Well, I do have a question about all that. What is your favorite flavor of Warhead, and why is it black cherry?
When I was eating those Warheads, well, I didn't eat them. I just ran them in my mouth. But I don't know what my favorite flavor was. I just know they hurt like hell.
I suppose that's an acceptable answer.
They felt like I stuck my tongue in an electrical circuit. It was just, God, my tongue felt like hell afterwards. And I went to the snack bar and I got a soda and like 2 bottles of water. It was insane.
Real quick, hello to Reaper's Horror. Thank you for joining us. Awesome to have you here, man.
Yeah.
Mandy had also asked what flavor Warheads. Was it assorted at least?
It was I don't really remember what my favorite was. It was just a mixture of, it was a whole big clusterfuck of Warheads in my mouth.
So basically it was just traumatic and you're blocking it out at this point.
It's not traumatic. It's more like I was so flustered that I had to keep going so I could get this game. It's just so much was going on in my mouth. So much was going on in my mouth. That doesn't sound good.
And canceled. Sorry, Raven.
Oh my God.
We'll just say it was a shocking experience and move on from that one.
Yeah, it was mind blowing. I mean, it was.
I'm sorry.
And CC's broken.
Yeah. I mean, when you got that, it's just when you got that much in your mouth, you don't really know. I should be. When you got that much.
Okay. All right. Pulling myself together. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. Needed that laugh. That was good. Oh. Sorry.
Well, it's still on YouTube if you want to see that.
Excellent. I'll have to track it down.
Yes,
Track it
definitely.
down. Yeah. Anyway, what y'all want to ask me?
Okay, everyone, I have composed myself. Okay. Any questions in the chat before we say goodnight? Oh, God. No?
I have one last question.
Uh-huh.
What?
Was it worth it?
It was. The game was pretty good. It was called Super Mario Land 3, and I have, well, Mario Land 1 and 2, and I was thinking this could be an unofficial completion in my collection, even though I found out there's a bunch of other Mario Land 3s floating around. But it was a hacked game. It's, to answer your question, yes, it was worth it, because number one, the game was good. Number two, it entertained a lot of people. And
Oh my!
yeah.
Reaper's horse says, "Would you say your tongue was a casualty of war?"
It was pretty close, yeah. It was most certainly electrifying. Because those warheads were insane.
L-O-L. Okay. Well, everyone,
I guess
just after... Go ahead.
I guess you could say that me shoving all those warheads in my mouth was just an oral sensation. That was bad. That was bad. I shouldn't have said.
So, I'm going to go ahead and close the show. Wanted to say thank you to AsTheRavenDreams for helping with hosting the show tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat for joining us for the second episode of Grave Matters. Hopefully Filia will be back next week. Please send your prayers to her. Thank you to Possessed Radio for joining me today. Awesome job. And thank you to William for being here. Awesome interview. Awesome story. We look forward to more in the future. So on behalf of myself, Possessed Radio, AsTheRavenDreams, Filia Noctis, and William, remember everyone, until next Sunday, 7 p.m. PST, stay frightened. What about you, Stephen?
Just special thanks to everybody for bearing with me. I hope Filia bounces back quick and things start to improve for her. We miss you. Special shout out to Raven for whispering sweet nothings that chat can't hear into my ear this whole time. And thanks for some awesome stories, William. I enjoyed what I got to hear today, and I think everybody else did, so great job reading. Thanks for inviting me along, Cece. I hope everybody enjoyed, and appreciate you just hanging out with us.
William?
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome to have you. Good night, everyone. See you next
care.
week. Stay frightened.
Cool.